Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, a space where we turn breakdowns into breakthroughs and help you build a life and business that actually honors your energy. I am your host, Lauren Perlingi, and today's episode is going to be deeply needed for every woman who has ever been or ever felt stressed out, overwhelmed, inflamed, or disconnected from her joy. The guest today has lived through the kinds of stories that most people never really talk about or publicly online or just publicly in general, from losing her farm, her health, her finances, her sense of self, and finding her way back to the path of the root cause, the healing, the daily rhythms, and the joyful living. Welcome, Janice. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Lauren. Such a nice welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So I know that I told a little bit about your story, but I want to hear more about your story and your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. And aloha from Maui, everybody. And that's Gracie back there. So hopefully you can see her. She's part of the group. She's got to be near me at all times. So aloha from Maui. It is 7:38 here in the morning, very early. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share because when I share, I find so much healing for myself as well. So I have been an entrepreneur for 38 years. Sometimes when I say that, I just can't even believe it because along the way, there's been a lot of times where I felt like giving up. But I grew up in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, with three parents, really. I had a stepmom that were all very entrepreneurial and lived that lifestyle. And so that just seemed like the norm for me. You know, having a 9 to 5 never really fit into my wheelhouse. Even though I did have some as I was growing up, I had some really fun, exciting jobs. I got to work in New York City and do flowers for the Today Show and
Oh, wow.
different shows that were on TV, soap operas and things, and different clubs. I loved it. I loved being creative with flowers, and I got to work in retail on Rodeo Drive, selling beautiful clothes to very wealthy celebrities, and experienced what that was like. And I've had jobs, so I definitely know the difference between being an entrepreneur and working for myself or building someone else's dreams. So when I became pregnant with my child, I always knew I wanted to be an involved parent. I wanted to teach them where their food came from, and I wanted to live a more simple life than I had lived growing up in the city. So my husband and I in 1998, we bought a 100-year-old farm in Central California. And we had a real vision to raise the kids in a lifestyle that was new to me and very exciting, and to understand the dynamics of food. And we just had a blast. We had a vision to create a lavender farm. And we started with a blank canvas, an empty field, and over about 14 years we were there. We created just a beautiful farm. We had 14,000 lavender plants, and we welcomed the public every single day. We were a bed and breakfast as well. That
Wow.
was before Airbnbs had become popular. And I loved it. I was the lavender lady. We had many retreats. As you can imagine, people loved painting there and taking photographs there. So it was a magnet for artists and creative thinkers. Every day we would welcome people and take them on tours around the fields and show them whatever we were working on at that season. So I learned a lot about what it was like to propagate, plant, tend, harvest, distill, bottle, label, market, and sell. It was a whole process, labor of love. And we learned so much about the healing power of plants. And I would teach people about how lavender as an adaptogen could help them adapt to stress. And it was just so beautiful to use it on your skin, your hair. We also offered lavender cookies, lavender lemonade, and really taught people that lavender is a cousin to rosemary in the mint family. So it's delicious to eat. It's also great in your hair and your skin. And I loved it. I was the lavender lady, as I said. I taught Pilates there, and we did a lot of healing retreats, wellness events. And it was really what I thought was going to be my whole life. I raised my family there, and pretty much it was like another child because we created it. So In 2008, I won Business Person of the Year there in our small town for bringing an industry that had never existed before there. And it was really in alignment with the wineries and the goat cheese and the whole bounty of the county tours. I loved it, loved it, loved it. And felt just like at the top of my game, and I really had found success, and I was working really hard. And in 2009, right after we got approved for a loan from the USDA to take it to the next level, meaning getting barcodes and getting out there and maybe into Whole Foods or something, we decided to go on our first vacation in 3.5 years. On my husband's 60th birthday, I stepped in a hole. And when that happened, my whole life changed in an instant. It just sounds so simple. I stepped in a hole. Oh, wow. Well, that led to 5 days in the hospital and a series of multiple surgeries to save my leg. I shattered my tibia and broke my fib in half. It was a major, major traumatic experience. I'm allergic to morphine and different, things that they give you for pain. So I was in a lot of pain. And within a year, I had released. I say released, but we had to give up our farm. We sold it short. We were part of that whole recession time of 2008 and 9. You might be too young to remember it, but I think you do. It was
No,
really,
I remember.
it was not good. And we had what they called a jumbo loan because we had really utilized the equity to build the business. And we were just poised to really take it next level. We'd been making some really good money. And so anyway, I came to later realize, of course, this was a wake-up call, because when I was back in my farm after the surgeries and everything, laying there recovering, wondering what had happened. Why did this happen? Why did I break my leg? I heard loud and clear in my mind my own voice saying over and over, I need a break. 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 And all of a sudden it dawned on me, for the prior 6 months to the accident, I had been saying multiple times a day, I need a break. We hadn't had a vacation in a long time. I was working really hard to get that USDA loan. And I was open every day. I didn't really understand that the kind of person that I am, I need rest. And I was really pushing because I wanted to be successful, and we just felt like we had made it. So it was really a wake-up call to understand the power of our words and what we're saying to ourselves every single day. And I really also realized that I went into a deep depression because I felt like I had failed. And I was really, ultimately, after years of therapy, came to realize that I had to forgive myself, that this wasn't something that, I did on purpose, of course. And it was probably part of the plan. And I needed to slow down. And I probably wouldn't have been able, both my husband and I, to sustain that work level for like at my age now. So this was a few years ago, and I've been on a healing journey ever since. I put on 100 pounds of weight and depression after that. And for a few years was just pretty much had my head in a bong. And I say that because the only thing that made me feel okay was cannabis. I couldn't take medicine, and my body doesn't do well with things. And it was the only plant that gave me some relief. And, I was just out of it. I was depressed and eating and I felt like I had lost everything. Well, I'm so grateful that I had tools, I had done all these healing workshops and everything. So I had the tools. I had been telling people for years, that would come to my farm and they would say, oh, you're living my dream. I want to do this. And I'd say, never give up on your dreams. My mantra was dream big. And I would tell them wonderful stories about my family and people in my life that never gave up, and they focused on their dreams and they achieved them. And so it took some coaxing, like I had to help myself. I had to coach myself back to remember that I could dream and that I could forgive myself. And so there were a lot of different healing modalities that I went through with the somatics and all different types of things, but I kept having these incredible skin rashes and everything. And your skin is your largest organ, and it is a leading indicator if there's something going on. So there was definitely something going on. The stress had really taken a toll on us from losing our farm, starting over with zero. And after having lived such a beautiful life and then living a really in trouble life, we were in trouble financially for sure. That stress took a big toll. And so finally, after one of the skin rashes, I was at the doctor's office and we had been on 4 rounds of antibiotics to get rid of it. And after I finally got rid of it, she said to me, "You've got to lose at least 50 pounds, get on a good probiotic and build your immune system, or you're going to be on a lifetime of medications and you don't like medications." And it just scared me. And then she just walked away. She didn't offer anything like, "Oh, and here's a really good nutrition program," or "Here's some ideas." Because if you don't take medicine, you're pretty much not in there. They're not interested to help you. And unfortunately, that's sad. But I'm sure there's some out there that will, and naturopaths and people that are more aware. But gratefully, thankfully, right after that, I had been reintroduced to the system that I've been on ever since, that I had actually been aware of years prior. But I came into it so gratefully. I'm glad I did, because within 3 days, it was a plant-based system of really addressing what I do now and helping people address deficiencies, stress, and toxins, the three major things. When we do that, the magic happens, because when we don't, there's dysfunction. And so I started to address the deficiencies, and I started to do intermittent fasting that was botanically supported. I started back a lot with plants, and I was able to release that 100 pounds and feel better and really create a lifestyle for me, because as I was sharing that, I was able to also earn income. So my husband and I ended up, after a while, after some other little events that happened, we started full-time RVing around the mainland. And boy, was that fun. We did that for 3.5 years, and our RV was just, I loved it so much. And I got to go around and meet new people and be inspiring again. I felt like I had a way to share something that I could help people. And it just became this beautiful time. And then we ended up coming over here to Maui for 90 days for a project, and COVID hit. So we stayed. So I have been working as a nomad, literally, all over the country and world remotely now for all these years. And it's in giving back and inspiring other very stressed out, emotionally exhausted, tired entrepreneurs. These are my people. I can understand where they're at, and I can help people that have lost their clarity and their joyful energy. And I really found that, by finding your way back to yourself and forgiving yourself, it is such a great opener for more joy, right? And that's what I like to do, is help people have more joy. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell. But the bottom line is, all of us go through trauma in one form or another. And when we choose to do the work, the deep work, and it really starts, emotionally and mentally first. I had to go there first. I was actually able to release about 35 pounds quickly on the system, basically, and because I couldn't walk. But after that, it stopped, because I really wasn't able to make the jump to get back to wellness, to really release that 100 pounds, until I gave up the resentments and forgave myself. When that happened, the weight just fell off, because I wasn't carrying around the burden of shame and sorrow anymore. And I learned to deal with that grief through somatic movement and through plant-based wellnesses that I'm a big fan of, and just whatever it takes, to rest and acknowledging. And I got to tell you, this whole idea of human design, I love human design, because when you understand about human design, which I do, I'm a projector, and I'm very much need to take care of myself, as we all do. We are our greatest asset. Our greatest gift. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't do anything, right? Then we're really lost. So I learned how now at 62, still medication free, still relying on adaptogens and nootropics and plant wellness, and helping others. And that's really what's been able to help me heal.
Yeah. Well, I want to say your story is so beautiful and so powerful. And I know that every single person listening to this episode is going to be like, "Yep, that's me. Yep, that's me." I often hear people say a lot, I just want joy. I want, maybe they don't say those words, but like when they talk about feeling overwhelmed or feeling burnt out. And what my mind goes to is like, let's figure out the root cause to this. Because physically, emotionally, spiritually, like there's, and it's, you do that so beautifully in just everything that you said. So can you kind of tell us like that moment that you realized something has changed. I can't live like this anymore. Like, what was that energetic turning point for you? So maybe that could maybe give some like aha moments for the listeners that maybe are really in a situation that you have came out of.
Well, I think honestly, it was when that doctor said that to me. It really was like a wake up call because I realized that I couldn't go on like that. 4 rounds of antibiotics and I don't do well with antibiotics either, and just not feeling well, all the dysfunction that comes along with that, and feeling so energetically down. I was tired of that. And so when she said that, I thought, okay, well, then I'm just gonna, I always, all of my life, things have come to me that I've needed at the right time. So I realized, okay, what I'll do is I'll just be receptive right now to how I can turn this around. I'd already been doing the work on my words. I mean, honestly, if there's anything you could do right now is to think about and listen to how you talk to yourself during the day, because you wouldn't believe how many times you say things to yourself, either out loud, right? Like, oh, I'm so sick of this, or whatever, inside your mind, that are sabotaging your success. So, and holding you back. So I really was working on my words already, but when that kind of hit me that I've got to lose this weight, I've got to feel better, I've got to figure this out, but I don't know how. And I let go and I said, I know that what I'm needing, it will come. And then 3 days later, I was reintroduced to this system, and I was like, yeah, I did that before, and that's a good idea, and I want to do that. And it just fell into place, and everything just worked out. So it was really the first being aware, I'm in a bad place. I'm going to have to be on a lifetime of meds if I don't do something about this. And then letting go of trying to control how that outcome is so that I can be open and receptive. And then utilizing the tools that we have. We've all been given tools, and I had a healthy toolbox basically. And so it was diving in there and trying to find that, recognizing the signs. I had a little trick I called the walk around the rim moments. For example, if something was going to trigger me or would trigger me, I would really think about, when you go down in that deep hole of depression where I've been, and if you've been there, it's very hard to get back out of it. It's like you're climbing and climbing. And I realized that I would be triggered, and I go, okay, I don't want to go down in that deep hole. So instead, I'm going to visualize walking around the rim of the hole all the way to the other side and then move forward. In other words, I'm acknowledging it, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to walk around the rim. And so I would have a lot of walk around the rim moments where I was visualizing that, yes, I could choose to go down in there, but it'd probably take me a month or two to get back out. And so I'm going to just walk around the rim. So it's recognizing the triggers, which comes from being aware, first of all, of what's going on, and then making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I started to really take care of myself, put my self-care needs first. And bottom line, we're in the age of supplementation. So we supplement. We either get therapy or we're taking supplements or whatever. We're supplementing to support. And so I started supplementing and addressing the deficiencies. And then also the emotional and physical detoxes have really been helpful in the process. But that self-love and finding that again through joyous activities that I liked to do. So I started swimming more at the ocean and painting and doing things that I really enjoy, that brought me joy, all while watching for the triggers and walking around the rim, right? So it's like it's a constant juggle of all the tools, but it works when you work it. And then I think in also giving back for me and helping others and sharing my story. It's like I could have just been at the beach this morning walking, but I make it a point to do these a few times a week so that I'm hopefully touching someone's life out there that was like me, that was just so down and didn't think there was a way out. There is always a way out. There is always a solution. And as we focus on those, we find them. And that's why I mentioned the human design too. I think that has been a huge process in my healing to understand and self-forgiveness, because I was like, oh, that's why I'm like that. I don't have to talk negatively about myself because that's how I'm made. I'm made like that. And it may not be for everybody, but I can accept it and I like it. And so when we can find that out, it's amazing that you might go, oh, well, that's why I need a nap every day, or that's why I need this. So I love human design. Have you heard of it?
I'm surprised you don't know that I know about it. That's literally all that I talk about. Like I'm like, and when guests like to talk about human design, there's not a lot of people that know about it. So when guests like to talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking about it. Yeah, it's actually what saved my life too. I want to say there's other things, obviously, part of my story, but yes, it was the permission slip, because I think we talked about this offline or off the recording, that I'm a 6/2 emotional projector. So it was the permission slip that I needed to really, the questions that I always had for myself, or the questions I would ask other people of like, this is how I feel, through all of the, same thing, all of the tools that I had. Nothing was fulfilling until it found me 7 years ago, 9 years ago, and then it refound me again 7 years ago, because I wasn't ready to dive into it. And I've always been obsessed with astrology, so I always understood systems through that lens of like, I know this is not the truth. Like I can see the truth, I can see the bigger picture, but like, how do I get there? Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm an Aquarius and I've been into that. I've always loved astrology. And so when people would tell me about human design in the past, I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm a manifesting generator. I figured I'm a manifester because I manifest things. But when I got into it and was like, oh my God, I'm like an intuitive projector. And there's only 20% of us projectors out there. And we are very different, but we do have, I'm not surprised you're doing podcasts and things like that, because we have to share, we have to make a difference. And when I realized that, and I really do operate on intuition, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh, that's just so, I had a beautiful reading. So now actually people who do a 90-day joyful reset with me, which is my program, I offer them a complimentary human design, because I feel like I would work with people for 90 days and we would spend the first 30 to 45, maybe like all of it, trying to deal with the limiting beliefs and the self-talk and all this stuff. And it was such a drag. And I thought, they could do so much better if they could just get to it right away. So I said, let's do a human design for them right away. And it's really helping, because then people can get into it and have their results faster and ditch that negative self-limiting talk, because we are all made so uniquely and beautifully. And there's something so special about all of us. And when we can express that, it's so much more fun for all of us to get together and play. Yes. Because we're being ourselves and we're happy and we're smiling. I love that. That's great. I didn't realize that, but that's good to know and makes sense that we're both projectors.
Yeah. Yeah. Is your son an Aquarius?
No, my son's a Gemini. My daughter is a Virgo. My mom was an Aquarius.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Your son in astrology. So like your sun, moon, in astrology.
Yes, sun and moon.
Okay. Oh, sun and moon. Okay. So my moon is Pisces, my rising is Pisces, and my sun is Aquarius. So we're both Aquarius suns.
When was your birthday? When's your birthday?
My birthday is February 7th.
My mom was February 6th.
Oh.
I'm January 25th.
Okay, so you're a January Aquarius. Okay. Yeah.
I am. But
Yeah.
I love astrology. Just I believe that, there's something to say about being born at that time and how the planets were and all of that. So I think it does help us to really have that understanding. And I believe it's played a role in my healing. Now, I broke my leg a long time ago. I've been on this healing journey for years, and I only did the human design just not too long ago. So, even though people are, way far down in their healing journey, they can still do their human design and be like,
I always say it's the peak, like I always say if I could have a huge microphone to tell the entire world that, like my free chart reading link, that just go do that and read it. Don't understand it. Sure, you can book a call with me, but just read that, do your own discovery. And I'm telling you, now, if you're going to be resistant to what you see because of how much you operate in conditioning, and how much you like, even to like this, like even like to this, even me, like yeah, sure, I make things look easier, but it's because I'm so in alignment. I've practiced this for 7 years. Literally, it's been a human experience of practicing my own human design and then teaching what I learned. I'm not saying that I know everything about human design, but I intuitively read charts. I'm not like the other readers of like getting certifications, doing things that by the book. I never claim to be a certified reader because I don't feel like that is necessary. I just feel like you need to have a good understanding. You need to know who you're reading from, like if you're getting a reading from. But I always say just trust yourself, and people feel it in their body if that person's for them or that person's not for them, and just listening to that. I think that that is huge. And it's literally the roadmap. Like you don't need anybody else to tell you what to do. You have it all within you. You just need a guide to guide you through what you need to go through, you know?
yeah, I really liked the visuals too, the colors and everything. And one thing I was so impressed with, because I've always thought I was a little different. Entrepreneurs often feel like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this or I'm different. And I realized I have very strong entrepreneur lines. Like she was telling me that it was like she'd never seen it, like very strong entrepreneur lines. So I definitely, and I'm an entrepreneur. And I was like, okay, well, now I know I am an entrepreneur for
Yeah.
sure. I was
It's
made
like,
that way.
yeah, it's like the permission slip, and it's like that more clarity to like you already know something, but then you physically see it. So you're like, can't unsee that now. That's just what it is. And that goes for anything. Like through my own healing, even till now, like even if I know where I need to look in my chart, or, if I have my own mentor of like saying something, I'm like, oh yeah, yep, I'm in my shadow. And that's why I like Gene Keys as well, because I'm super involved, like probably the last year or so, super intrigued with Gene Keys, because the Gene Keys are, it shows you that lower vibration, which is your shadow. We all are there at some point and wherever we are. And then the higher vibration, or your gift, and then the higher vibration. So you just take that one gene key or that one situation, and that's how you elevate into higher frequency, because it's all about frequency. Like you're not always high frequency, but you're not always low frequency either. And it's like you have a gift in between the shadow and the higher frequency, which is why some people just like gene keys. I like both, and it's like that's kind of like how I steer, people, or like help people understand. I mean, to be honest, I could talk about human design forever, but it's like, for me, I had to figure out a way that I can tangibly just pull out things that will help people in that moment. So I literally will just say random stuff, and they're like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, well, let me pull your chart and I'll show you.
I
And
haven't
it's
done the
just
gene
that.
keys. I haven't done gene keys, so I'd like to talk more
That's,
about that at some
yeah.
point because
Yeah, we
I
yeah.
love that idea, and I'm very into frequencies. I'm also the practitioner here in Maui, at the Maui Singing Bowl. It is the largest bowl and only one of its kind in the world. You lay in a hammock,
Oh
and
wow.
then I strike it with this huge thing every 15 seconds for 20 minutes, and you get 1,000 frequencies at once. It is
Wow.
absolutely beautiful. So if you ever want to come to Maui,
I
and
do
get in the singing
one
bowl,
day.
I love that. I'm very into frequencies, and I understand frequency, and gratitude is such a high frequency. And I used to talk a lot about rose oil is the highest frequency oil. So using rose oil when you're feeling, practicing meditation or experiencing gratitude can really enhance that and make it even more powerful. But I love that you're into frequencies, and we'll definitely have to do another one on the gene keys so you can help me move into
Yeah.
that. I want to learn.
We'll definitely have to connect more after this call because yeah, we definitely, yeah, love that. Yay. Okay. So, getting back to when you're rebuilding your health, this came up, especially has come up with a couple of my clients, and I know a couple of the listeners that listen to the podcast, about their finances and their whole identity and that mindset or that belief system that you were just talking about, like, before we started talking about human design. um, where was that required for you when you rose out of that? I don't rose out of that pit of like that stability and that leadership. What was like that mindset or that belief shift that was required for you to rise up out of your deep dark hole?
Well, I think I was really holding on to this idea that as an entrepreneur, you're either rolling it or you're rolling in it or you're not. I would go through, I'd have a lot and then I wouldn't. And even at the farm, we'd have seasons. Of course, lavender season, it was just so busy. And then there was down seasons. And it seemed like, it was, I definitely was working hard to build that business and didn't really realize a lot of, um, let's go backtrack. I worked with the Small Business Administration for 1 year. I went every month and took a class on my business plan and how to build the business and all this. And that's what got me the loan from the USDA. And when I broke my leg, I got so resentful because I was like, wait a minute. In that whole year, nobody talked about what do you do if you break your leg, or what do you do if you have an accident, or how are you prepared, or what's your plan B? I mean, and I got kind of angry and resentful and felt let down and was like, why wasn't I better prepared? And why I had no idea this could be so devastating financially, because we ended up going bankrupt. And I faced multiple years with multiple 3-day notices. I had to go to soup kitchens. I had to get a job walking around with a cane for a while. I had a job, that was already so depressing, where I had to work for somebody else. And
Yeah.
at least I got it in a spa. I worked at a front desk in a spa in Laguna Beach, which was great because I could walk around the beach to heal and I could get saunas and massages and things. But money, right? And the whole energy around money has something I've been really working on in my healing process because I did want to be self-employed. I don't want to work for other people. I like building my own dreams and making a difference and feeling like I have a purpose. And so I knew that I wanted to do that. I just felt like it was like I'd make some money and I'd have some money. And the next thing I know, I didn't have money. And then I'd make some money. So I had been searching out, working with self-hypnosis and money coaches and cleaning up my money message, my money masterminds, working more on money as energy. And I have felt the results from that. I've always loved network marketing just because I like the idea that you're helping other people and you're also helping them make money. So I really wanted to be able to do something in that arena. Whereas other people in my family were saying, you should just refire up your real estate license, or you should get a real job where you're going to get paid what you're worth. And, people in my family that kind of poo-pooed what I did, it's like, oh, you're just a little entrepreneur coach thing or whatever. And I had that vision that I really wanted that lifestyle. And I feel like when I learned to really focus on that, as opposed to all the other stuff just fell in line. So I really learned to focus on my dreams by being clear with vision work, and, deep introspection about what I don't want and what I do want, and then focusing on what I want. And then it just seems to fall in line. Network marketing has been good to me, because I've been able to help other people. So I really feel like as a woman, if we can be entrepreneurial and have a side gig of some kind, right, where we're making a difference and we feel joyful and a purpose, we can be better prepared for those things that happen. I just remember how helpless I felt. And it was interesting too, because when I, started my lavender farm, I was one of the first members of Young Living years ago. and their network marketing oil farm. And I loved it, and I was one of the first, like one of the first 20. I mean, really early on. Had I kept that going and over the years, because I gave it up when I had the lavender farm, I had to focus on my business, and I would have lavender events there and bring my friends who did Young Living, but I didn't stay in. But had I stayed in, it's very possible when I broke my leg, I would have had a backup plan. I would have had something I could have fallen back on, but I didn't. And so I was sorry about that. So, I was grateful to find something that I represent isogenics, but I was grateful to find something that I could align with that was high frequency. That was really important to me,
Mhm.
and would get results. So, also physically getting the results of clearing up myself mentally with the adaptogens and the nootropics and the protein. I was definitely not getting enough protein. I mean, I need 140 grams of protein a day to be alert and to function. And I was definitely not getting that. And so starting to get the nutrition that I needed, and the minerals and the electrolytes and the vitamins, I started to light up. And then once I could feel it, then I could connect to that vision. And for me as a projector, I'm not supposed to go chasing business. I'm
Right.
supposed to just be being me and shining my light. And those that will relate to me will and are in alignment with that will want to know more. And that's how I'm supposed to work. And so just having that, like, oh, no wonder I don't really like working 8 hours a day. No
Yeah.
wonder I don't like the grind. I'm not a hustler. And that's why the lavender farm works so well. I mean, people would show up and I'd just be doing my thing, and they'd walk around and we'd have fun. I'd spend an hour telling them stories, and then they'd give me money and leave. And it was just so beautiful. That
Right.
suits me. That's a perfect thing for me. So I've been kind of wanting, my vision and my dream now is to have a place where I could have more of a sanctuary for people to come. I like doing retreats and things. And I have a little bit of a vision for something new, but we'll see how that unfolds. Things have just changed. I've noticed in the last couple of years, it's just like you figure it out and then something else, and then you figure it out and something else, something else, something else. It's just all these things coming at us.
Yeah.
I've really had to ground myself, back up a little. And I had another wake up call in September. I went to an event in Denver with Isogenics, and then I went back to Portland with my daughter. And the night I got back, I came down with the flu. And I haven't had the flu like that in 30 years, and I don't get sick, and I don't know what happened. But I think I had been pushing again, and that flu took me out for 8 weeks. I ended up spending 3 weeks in Portland at my daughter's house where she took care of me. And I think probably I liked that in some small way. It was nice. But then I finally felt well enough to fly back to Maui, and it was another month at least to get my bearings. And it was a wake up call. It was like, I've got to remember, I don't have to hustle so hard. I don't have to push. I need to relax. I need to take care of me. And so it's funny how we get things, we figure things out, and then we have to figure them out again in some other new way. But that's the process. That's the human experience. I mean, I remind myself, I'm grateful I can walk with two legs through this, because it could have been a lot different. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and intuitively the message came to me to tell her, because she'd been telling me she was going through some stuff. And I often don't even need to hear about what the stuff is, because it's all the same, really, in reality. And I said to her, I got this message that whatever you're going through, don't let it dim your light. And that's what happens, is that we're all going to go through it. But if we can keep shining our light, right? And I've had my light dim a few times. But if we can find our way back to that light, and that light is being who we are, what our purpose is, what our passion is, how we can make a difference, and find it so that we can be in the flow. And she looked at me and she said, well, how do I do that? And I said, more gratitude. And it's just really what it is. And sometimes people are like, well, I have nothing to be grateful for. Well, I can remember being grateful for clean sheets, and just, oh, I love these sheets, and I love great clean sheets. So I have really a practice of gratitude that I think is what helps me to stay in the flow.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a huge reminder for everybody listening. For me too, because I almost, I kind of spiraled back. Well, I didn't allow myself to spiral back into that place, but all I heard was you need to be more grateful because the universe will take away the things that you keep saying that you want. And I was like, oh my God, it must have been my higher self, Scott, whoever was talking to me. And I was like, I had to stop myself that I'm like, what was I like back in my journal or however you like, track all this negative self-talk or what you're saying or what you're speaking, a video that you're making, whatever. Just listening to that, I was like, oh my God, I keep hearing all the things that I want and I'm not hearing, what I desire or like what I'm actually like, I don't know, a car or like, warmth, or it's like that will get taken away. And then it's like, then you start to realize, oh, but I had that last week, but why don't I have it this week? And it's like, because you need to learn the lesson of being grateful. Like, and it's kind of like what I teach my daughter. She's, going to be 6 and, helping her understand that you want all this stuff. And, obviously she's growing into, a human and the human experience that the first level is wanting, like that wanting, that ego. This is what I want. This is what I need versus being okay with that. Obviously with her consciousness, I have to be very gentle with it, but like having her grow up to know that if I don't have it, I'm still safe. I'm still okay. This is not, I just can still dream, like that could still be a dream that you could have. So yeah, I think when we're in that, all of us, our humanness forgets to actually be grateful for what I didn't have or what I have now or whatever. If you look back, just self-reflection, it's the end of the year when we're recording this, just self-reflection to your entire year of what went right and what worked and what didn't work, because our brains are wired to focus on what's not working. So how can you focus on what's working? Because there's a lot of things right now that are working.
Well, they say what you focus on grows.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful to say that I have adult children now in their 30s. I loved 6. The age 6 was great. I did substitute teaching in all their younger classes. I just loved those years.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that they went through it with me. They know what it's like to struggle, and we all came together. We found out after I broke my leg, my mom had Alzheimer's. She moved in with us, and my son came, and my daughter's brother came back from the military, and we all moved in together. And we were living in Bend, Oregon, in one house. We're together as a family. They understood the power of family and connection, and we took care of my mom. I was changing her diapers all the way till the end. They watched that process.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll do the same for me. But I'm grateful. I think, those hardships, because I had to move when we lost the farm. My daughter was in her junior year and she'd grown up with all those kids, and we had to move down south in Southern California and leave all her friends. And she had to do her senior year in a new school. That was no fun. I felt really bad about that. I felt like, oh my gosh. Now when I look back on it, all these things that we experienced together as a family made them stronger, made us stronger as a family. They learned so much. They learned that they can handle things. They learned what to do to look for solutions. And they definitely learned that what you focus on grows, because we had to focus on healing and getting better and coming together. So I think what you're doing to raise your daughter in a conscious way is it's the best job that we can have, really. It's the only job I want.
Right.
And I
And
have
it's
4
the hardest
grandkids
job.
now.
Yeah, I'm like, and it's the hardest.
It is.
It's the hardest thing that I'm like, motherhood is the hardest hood to be in, to be honest. But
Well, it's gonna force you to grow for sure.
yeah, yeah. And
And I have
she was my why. She was the reason why I started healing. And then until I became the reason. She's obviously still a huge part of my why, but now I'm also just as important, and like my mission here and like me, like, because that's, basically what I'm all about. Everybody matters. You matter. it was my turning point through my story too, of why everybody matters. It all matters. Every part of your story matters. It's the reason why I have a podcast, because you matter, your story matters. So before we wrap up, your journey is such a testimonial of resilience. And if you could speak to every version of yourself, that inflamed part, that exhausted part, that bankrupt part, the losing hope part, what would you tell her now?
Oh, I tell her all the time. I would tell her I love you so much and I'm so grateful for you. And I often, I see this as my human suit that I'm wearing in this lifetime. And from things that I've learned and studied, I believe that we keep coming back in different experiences until we learn what we need. And so this is the one I've chosen for this one, and I love her. And I tell her that all the time and how grateful I am for her. So all of it brought me here, and I'm grateful for all of it.
Thank you so much for bringing all of your wisdom, and everybody listening to this powerful conversation. If you felt that your shoulders dropped, you can breathe a little bit deeper, or maybe just a small spark of hope returned. That's your body remembering what joy feels like. And Janice showed it so beautifully through everything that she shared. Literally living proof. If you're watching this over on YouTube, you can see it. It's never too late to rebuild your health, your wealth, and your sense of self. And that real transformation, like she said earlier, begins when we stop masking those symptoms and finally addressing that root cause to everything. So make sure you check out her links below. If you're listening to this, below in the show notes, or if you're watching this over on YouTube, check out all of her links below to connect with her over on YouTube in the description box. And I would like to invite you in to the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, my community for spiritual entrepreneurs rising into their purpose. You can connect with me on Instagram over at The Mermaid Light, or check out all of the links below in the show notes. And this is just a gentle reminder again to make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so we can bring on more amazing guests, and share this episode with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening to it. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week.